And then relatively straightforward when I read it. But
So you got your packet this month, I see.
I did. No, I need that little guide that says, okay, this is how we run the meeting.
You what?
I need that little guide that says, this is how we run the meeting.
Oh, that guide. Lisa, you got those yellow? Those yellow. Oh. Yeah. Go Diana.
She is.
Oh, her leader. Give it to
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess.
No.
Hello. You want to use this month?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Read everything. I can do it.
Yeah.
Fire, calm down.
I hope so.
So,
I hope so.
well, I saw our burn pile back open, they burned it off, and they gave all the residents, ready, set, go wildland fire action.
Oh. No, hold on, read it.
Unless you really want to.
Well, no, I just think about it just now.
It's 7:30. We'll go ahead and get started this evening. Oh, you're not. Like to welcome everybody this evening to the May meeting of the Riley County Planning Board and Board of Zoning Appeals. First item this evening, we'll have Rita read off the rules for the public comment session.
Yeah, these are the Riley County Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals rules for public comment sessions. Following rules apply to all meetings of the Riley County Planning Board and Board of Zoning Appeals. Public comment shall be limited to no more than 5 minutes for each speaker. The time limit does not include any questions asked by the board members. The chair reserves the right to extend speaker time should a situation warrant doing so. All comments should be directed to the board. All speakers should go to the podium to make comments, stating their full name and their address before beginning. Public comment shall be made only during the designated time on the agenda at the public meeting. Public comments are out of order if made outside of the designated time on the agenda of a public meeting and without the speaker having first been recognized by the chair. Almost done. Remarks of individual speakers shall not be simply repetitive of identical comments made by prior speakers. Verbal and visual personal attacks on private citizens, staff, or board members shall not be allowed. Speakers who violate any one or more of these rules will be asked to end their comments, and speakers or non-speakers who attend the meeting whose conduct disrupts the orderly and dignified content of any public meeting at any time will be asked by the chair to leave such a meeting. You guys look good. It'll be nice.
Thank you, Rita. At this time, we'll open up our agenda for open public comments. At this time, if you would like to make a comment about planning and zoning, besides what's on the agenda for this evening, please do so. Okay, I'm gonna say that's no. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consider the minutes of the April 10th meeting.
I had a change on page 12.
Okay.
Is now when I should tell you about it.
I guess, yes.
And the electricity, the term that should be used is a lifeline service. It was written as lifelong, but it's lifeline is what I had intended.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other additions?
Lifeline,
Lifeline,
lifeline, okay, got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
a critical service, lifeline.
Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes? The previous meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as corrected.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as corrected. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. The second item on the consent agenda is to consider the report of fees for the month of April. Anybody have any questions on that?
None for me.
I just had one, I guess, on the building permits. Addition to an existing pole barn. The value, but it says residential, but it has no fee on that. Why was there not charged a fee? Be the Eric Nelson one. I mean, if it's residential, it says nothing about agricultural, so.
He listed it as, that's what he listed the building as. He is zoned residential. Wait a minute, and you said he didn't pay the.
Nope, there's no fees in that mark in that block there.
Okay.
The Eric Nelson.
Nelson.
I'll need to go back and look at that one, John, and see
Okay.
if he filled out an agricultural.
And on the, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That is a misprint. If you look at the reported fees on April 7th, he did pay $150.
Okay,
Okay, yeah.
all right,
Okay.
got it, okay. Perfect. I didn't catch it that way. Diane?
On the Linhart one, it says description, lean to addition to an existing garage. It sure looks like a garage to me. Not a lean to. Is there a difference in what?
Well, I do know that that was a violation. And that he had to apply for a building permit because you see the fees doubled.
Okay,
So that's what they had on the application. So I don't.
If it's paying double, then you took care of it.
okay.
He's modifying the garage.
Pardon?
He's modifying the garage, but it's this detail on how he was modifying the garage. It's like a carport, honestly.
Yeah, he said it was a.
Oh, that would be why. Okay.
Is there any more questions about the report of fees? If not, do I have a motion to accept the report of fees for the month of April?
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we consider that we approve the report of fees for the month of April. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, motion carried. All right. Moving on to the next item of business. At this time, we do not have any business underneath the Riley County Board of Zoning Appeals. Do I have a motion to close that hearing and move on to the Riley County Planning
Mr.
Board?
Chair, I move that we close the joint meeting of the Riley County Planning Board and Board of Zoning Appeals and reconvene as the Riley County Planning Board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the joint meeting of the Raleigh County Planning Board and Board of Zoning Appeals due to no agenda items and reconvene as a Raleigh County Planning Board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 5-0. All right. Next item of business, or the first item of business, is a public hearing for Roger P. and Cindy J. West. Petition 23-017. Bob, take it away. Okay.
And this is a fairly straightforward replat. Roger and Cindy West have made application with Raleigh County Planning and Development requesting to replat Lot A, Lot 39 and Lot 38 of Random Woods into 3 lots. This request involves 3 separate lots with 3 separate set of property owners. And I want to bring your attention, this was what was not on your first page of your staff reports. This includes Roger and Cindy West, Troy and Christine Parker, and Stephanie Ulmer. The subject site is generally located approximately 560 feet east of West 68th Avenue on the north side of Woodside Lane, all in the northwest corner of Brandon Woods. Historically, the subject property was rezoned in June 1984 to a single-family residential zoning designation. The property was later platted as lots 38, 39, and Lot A of Brandon Woods subdivision in January 1985. Lots 38 and 39 are each developed with a single-family dwelling, while Lot A is undeveloped. It appears that Lot A was intentionally reserved as a utility lot to protect the unnamed creek that transects it and to handle stormwater drainage, as evidenced by the large drainage easement over the lot. With Lot A and associated drainage easement extending in between lots 38 and 39, which I will show you through a little bit later, access from Woodside Lane, a street internal to the subdivision, would prove difficult. Thus, the intent may have been Lot A would remain an unbuildable lot. As mentioned previously, the subject property was rezoned from G1 General Agricultural to its current residential zoning designation in June of 1984. There are no variances, special uses, or conditional uses associated with the site. Additionally, there is no request or requirement to rezone the property as part of this request. Riley County Fire District Number 1 will serve the site. The nearest county fire station is the Ogden Fire Station located at 500 East Riley Avenue, practically right down the street. This subject site is located within 5 road miles of the fire station. According to the most recent Flint Hills Joint Land Use Study, the subject site is located within the land use planning zone shown here in blue. Officials from Fort Riley have reported that according to Fort Riley's installation operational noise management plan of 2015, noise sensitive uses, land uses such as housing, schools, medical facilities, churches, etc., are generally acceptable within the LUPC. The entire property is located within the airport overlay district. You could recall part of the regulatory changes established with the adoption of the new land development regulations was the elimination of the N1 airport noise hazard zone in favor of utilizing the more advanced airport overlay district that the city of Manhattan uses. Although the subject property was not in the N1 zoning district, upon adoption of the new land development regulations, the subject property was included in the airport overlay district as shown here. The magenta line outlining the blue conical area depicts the boundary of the AOD with the subject property well within it. A little bit closer of it, you can kind of see it there. Mentioned earlier in regard to existing Lot A and the drainage easement taking up most of the lot, a small tributary, a first order stream, transects the northern portion of existing Lot A and feeds into 7 Mile Creek. According to section 6.3 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations, all new development shall be required to provide a 50-foot riparian buffer zone along all first order streams. However, the stream and buffer area lie within that existing drainage easement, so it's protected from development. And here is the final plat. Again, this is a replat, so no preliminary plat required. This is the final plat illustrating the new orientation and location of the existing and proposed lot boundaries. The current layout shows existing Lot A and lots 38 and 39. Lots 38 and 39 abut and directly access Woodside Lane, which is a paved road maintained by the county. Existing Lot A abuts and has direct access to West 68th Avenue, also a paved road maintained by the county. The applicant wishes to sell the portion of Lot A that lies between lots 38 and 39 to the owners of those lots. And this is kind of what it will look like divided. The portions of that division will be incorporated into each lot via this replat, enlarging each lot. All existing easements being in place. And the new numerical lot configuration. A few pics of the site. This is looking northwest at the home currently occupying lot 38. You see in the depiction here, just where I was standing in relation to the proposed layout. Turning to my right, this is looking northeasterly across lot 38 at the undeveloped area and heavily wooded drainage easement along the eastern portion of this lot. And that is the portion of lot A that will be incorporated with lot 38. About the tree line over, this is looking west across current lot 39. As you can see, lot 39 is developed with a single family residence. And the same residence in relation to Woodside Lane. This is illustrated on standing actually on West 68th Street, 68th Avenue, I should say, looking directly east behind the homes that are along the Woodside Lane here. And this is the general location where the applicant would like to build his house. Again, the applicant has already installed an entrance, staked out where he would like to put the home. Prior to Perry's departure, he was able to make a positive determination regarding the installation of the septic and lateral system for this lot. The lot will be in compliance with the sanitary code. Staff recommends that the planning board approve the final plat of Random Woods Unit 4, as it has been determined that it meets the minimum requirements of the Raleigh County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code. That's all I have. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to field those.
Does any of the board have anything for Bob at this time? Nathan, anything?
I just wondering, the rest of that lot, is that going to be accessed from, was it West 60?
So here's the access for this
Okay,
area
all
right here.
right.
This part right here is gonna be incorporated into this lot. This portion of the the part kind of separated into two lots, the wooded portion is gonna be incorporated with lot 39. So I want to go back up here so you can see it. So this is how it is right now, Nate.
Yeah,
And so there's lot 38, there's lot 39. And so here's where the tree line pretty much starts for this drainage easement. You can kind of see the drainage easement going all the way through lot A. But it leaves this corner alone, which makes it a buildable corner. And so that little portion right there will go into lot 38. That little bit will go to lot 39. And so you will have lot 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. and they're planning on building a new house on that?
A house right here.
Oh, okay,
There's already a house here and
that's why I was thinking. I didn't realize they was asking. for that.
yeah. All this is drainage easement separating,
Yeah.
so it really doesn't. As far as buildable, developable, this really doesn't do much for lot 1. All easements, all drainage easements and such will remain in place.
Joe, you have anything for Bob?
I think he's done a good job of explaining it.
We done, we good?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. At this time, if the applicants here would like to say something, please go up to the podium, state your name and go from there. If you don't, that's fine too. Okay, good, thank you. Okay. See here.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Diane.
We closed the public hearing on petition 23-017.
Okay,
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing and go into our deliberation mode. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, motion carried 5-0. So, all right, Diane, you got anything?
I think it's just, it's a good thing to do, I really think, because it takes advantage of giving those other people a little more land. And that's just not wasted and just growing up into cedars, my favorite thing or something. So
Okay.
I Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's good use.
Rita, got anything
I
there?
agree, nothing to add.
Joe?
There's probably too many trees above it for the cedars to grow anyway.
That's probably true.
It looks like a good
It's
solution.
fairly wooded, yeah.
Nathan, you got anything?
Good.
I don't have anything. I guess, as we've said before, good housekeeping and cleaning and working on making things so everybody can use stuff, so. All right, being that said, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the request to replat lots 38 and 39 and lot A of Random Woods subdivision into 3 lots to be known as Random Woods Unit 4. As it has been determined that it meets the requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request of the replat of lots 39, 38, 39, and lot A of Random Woods subdivision into 3 lots. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, motion carried, 5-0. Good luck, congratulations.
So one last item. on
Yes.
This one, the Board of County Commission will hear the same request May 18th at 10:30 a.m. in this chamber. That's something we need to be at, or if you want to be, you can be. It's not really- I recommend it though. 18 to 10:30. Yep. And there may or may not be cookies, so.
I'm watching my time.
All right, our next item of business is a hearing, petition 23-018 for Arlen J. and Wilma D. Walker. Request to replat lots A and B of the Flintstone addition into 2 lots. So. I don't see. Bob?
Sir,
Did you?
No.
okay, well, this thing started. So once again, good evening. Arlen and Wilma Liquor have made application with Riley County Planning and Development requesting to replat lot A and lot B of Flintstone Addition Unit 2 into 2 lots. And this is essentially a boundary line adjustment and vacating most of the utility easement along that common property line is to be adjusted. So the subject site is generally located approximately 800 feet west of West 60th Avenue, west and south of Flintstone Circle. And in April of 1982, the subject property was platted as Lot 1 of Sites Addition. In July of 1992, the subject site was replatted as Lot 3 of the Flintstone Addition. In January 2004, Lot 3 was replatted into Lots A and B of the Flintstone Addition into Unit 2. Presently, the owners of Lots A and B wish to adjust the common property line between the 2 lots and vacate the utility easement that runs along it. And if you look real close here, this is the line we're talking about. The subject site was rezoned from G1 General Agricultural to SF4 Single Family Residential June of 1982. The name of the SF4 Single Family Residential zoning designation was changed to SF1 Single Family Residential January 2022 with the adoption of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. The subject property is currently zoned SF1 Single Family Residential. There are no variances, special uses, or conditional uses associated with this site. There is no request or requirement to rezone the property as part of this request. Riley County Fire District Number 1 will continue to serve the site. The nearest county fire station is the Keats Fire Station located at 3141 West 69th Avenue. The subject site is located within 5 road miles of a fire station. According to the most recent Flint Hills Joint Land Use Study, the subject site is located within the 90s mentioned with the previous item. Officials from Fort Riley have reported that according to Fort Riley's installation operational noise management plan of 2015, noise sensitive land uses such as housing, schools, medical facilities, churches, etc., are generally acceptable within the LUPC shown here in blue. No new lots or new homes are being proposed with this request. And here is the final plat illustrating the new orientation and location of the lots boundaries. Both lots abut and directly access Flintstone Circle, which is maintained by the township. There are no new entrances being proposed with this request. There is a request to vacate a portion of the utility easement running along the common property line between existing lot A and lot B. And that's this what you see here. But the lot line extends north from this point. You will see that this portion of that utility easement is not being proposed to be vacated. So that will remain in place. There are lines, I believe rural water lines in there, right? And so that's going to be
just the power line.
power line. So there are utilities in it. Okay, so signed utility releases were provided by SMH consultants to all persons, entities, and or utility companies having property rights or interests in the utility easements as shown on the plat of Flintstone Addition Unit 2 to be vacated by this replat. The utility providers in the area have affirmed no existing use of or future interest in the easement shown here to be vacated. There are no objections to vacating the aforementioned utility easement. And that's the part we're looking at. You can see where the adjustment of the line would be here. No new utility easement is to be added here. Few pics of the site. This is me standing pretty much at the south end of Flintstone's Circle, looking southeast across proposed lot 2, the applicant's home. So moving to my right, and to my right, looking south at the accessory structure to the home. And then turning westerly and showing the nexus of the two lots and topography of the site. The roadway shown in the picture is the driveway of proposed lot 1, Mr. Mosier property. And this field occupies the southwestern most portion of the Leckers lot and is one of the reasons for the replat. Following the replat, this will be part of the Mosier's lot. And this is just this is the northern portion of that meadow. Just turning to my right. This is the northwestern corner of the subject site, and this is the Mosier's residence. Fairly simple. The reason why this is not a simple boundary line adjustment is because there is a utility easement that needs to be vacated. That's why it went before you via replat. Staff recommends that the planning board approve the final plat of Flintstone Addition Unit 3, as it has been determined that it meets the minimum requirement for the Raleigh County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code. Do you have any questions for me? Anything else?
Really have anything? Joe?
No.
Nathan?
Pretty clear to me.
Okay. At this time, would the applicants like to get up and say something? Please go up and state your name and.
Hello, I'm Arlen Lecker. And my wife has passed, so she's not present. The reason we're doing this is because there was a well in that easement or in that portion of the lot that where the line is being adjusted. So the line is being moved more or less to accommodate having the well out of that lot and there is a shop building as you can see there right to the west of the house in order to get back to that shop building. Right now I'm driving across Kelly's land to get to it, so we're adjusting that line so that the line comes out from the circle and then down. And so he wanted a little bit more land off of there and he just wanted to make sure that future owners of the lot, we have an agreement now that, to just you commonly use it, we don't mind people or driving on each other's ground or anything, but in the future, we needed to clean it up so that the future owners would have a better access to the back of that lot. And so Kelly will gain a little bit of ground, that's okay with me, we'll work that out. So, I'd like to, at this time, say, what a good job you guys have, you're on your planners. Bob has worked with us very very easily and cordially, and all the rest of the people we got involved with environmental staff, and we also are writing and shared well agreement on that well. And that's how so I'll be able to use most of that going down the hill on this side of that. You can see the kind of the shadow part, that's where the bottom of their little waterway is. And so we'll be able to utilize that better.
All right.
We appreciate all the help.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Thank you. You bet, thank you. Anybody else got anything they'd say? Thank you, cover it. All right. Being that said, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
John moved,
Been moved and,
he moved it, I seconded it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Nathan made the motion and Joe seconded, okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. 5-0. All right, deliberation of time. Diane?
I commend them on having the foresight to take care of details.
Yeah.
And stuff before it is a mess, it's just good housekeeping. The term we like to use, so.
Rita, anything?
No, looks like who knows who's gonna move in there, and neighbors may not get along 20 years from now, so it's good to clean it up.
Looks like a good solution to me.
Yep. Nathan, anything?
If they don't, somebody will probably move in and put a fence right up next to his shop, so it's probably a good idea.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Guy couldn't even get in his garage, because the property line was like 10 foot from his garage.
Wow.
They built a fence.
Oh, wow.
Not good.
Not good, so. All right, nope, I don't have anything. I think it's, taking care of business. Good housekeeping, so. With that being said,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request to replat lot A and B of the Flintstone Edition Unit 2 into 2 lots to be known as the Flintstone Edition Unit 3, as it has been determined that it meets the requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations.
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded that we move to approve the request of the replat of lot A and lot B of Flintstone Edition in Unit 2 into 2 lots to be known as Flint Hill or Flintstone Edition Unit 3, as it has been determined that it meets all the requirements of the Raleigh County Land Development Regulations. All those in favor, or is there any more discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. 5-0. Good luck.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't know if that needs to be in there or not, but it's gonna be lot, it's gonna be unit, it's gonna be lot 1 and 2 now, 4 was A and B. Unit 2 is A and B, and then unit 3 will be 1 and 2.
Okay.
You got that, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay,
Everything's
all right, okay.
Real quick though, the Board of County Commission will hear this request May 18th at 10:45 a.m. here in the chambers. Thank you everyone for coming. Board, we have 2 Mylars out here on the table for you guys to sign. We have one more item on the agenda, obviously, but I just want to give you a heads up. There's
We don't leave.
No.
Don't leave. Okay. You guys are welcome to stay for the next item of business, or not, you're free to go. Thank you.
Good sign.
Thank you.
We have to sign.
No, that's for us to.
Just wait a minute.
Oh.
You bet, thank you.
Everything else. And the secretary is very valuable.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you.
She works, she did a lot of stuff for us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Are you up, Amanda? Okay, so the second item or the third item of business is Riley County Land Development Regulation Discussion of Amendments.
Yes.
Take it
Alright,
away.
So as I kind of mentioned in this initial memo, our LDR, land development regulations that were effective January 1, 2022. We have, as we've been using them over the last year and a half, we've just, noticed some things that maybe need clarification or changing or that sort of thing. It's not abnormal. These are kind of living documents. It'll never really truly be done. So we just wanted to kind of have the initial conversation with you folks. At this point, we're not proposing any language. We're not there yet. Just want to talk to you folks about what we've noticed, different things that we'd like to have that discussion. If we want to take up any kind of amending of those sections, adding, clarifying, those sorts of things. So what I have here again is just some of the different sections or terms or whatever it might be that we've come up with on our little list, if you will, and kind of our justification of why we think it at least warrants looking at. Having those discussions and determinations if we need to make changes, and if we do, what those changes should look like, basically. So it's just our first conversation. We're not, making any changes tonight or anything like that, but wanted to get your folks' input to see what you were thinking about, what we're talking about. If you have any others, I know you sent an email. We'll talk about that as we go through. So just kind of want to see about your support with some of these different things, so. Ready to jump in? Any questions or thoughts before we get into it?
Are we gonna go through them individually?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Word. All right, so the first item is campgrounds. We get a lot of questions from folks wanting to camp on their property. These are a lot of folks who maybe have vacant pieces of property or, folks in like Bridge Street Heights that, they can't really, build on their property or whatnot. So we've received, can I tent camp? Can I bring my RV up? Can I, while I'm hunting or whatever it might be? And we don't really have a provision in our current LDR for that kind of thing. That's technically under our current LDR, that's considered a campground, a recreational vehicle. And that's, of course, a whole review, have certain zoning, use standards, all of that different sort of stuff. So it doesn't really fit if somebody just wants to, again, camp on it. You pitch a tent and camp on their property for a day or two or whatever it might be, whatever they're might be up to. So it's just something that staff has discussed for a while to see if that's something we want to take up, basically allow people with limitations, of course, time limitations, location, that sort of stuff, but allowing people to be able to camp or host somebody on their property, like in an RV or whatever. It's a pretty common thing. It's not abnormal for jurisdictions to allow that sort of thing, just with certain restrictions. So that's just something we're thinking of.
So you're talking about out in the country, rural areas?
Yeah, unincorporated county. And
I didn't realize there's anything prohibiting this. I mean, I can think back when my uncle and I were little kids and we just pitched the tent out behind the house because we wanted to sleep outside. I can't imagine.
And
I'm
of
saying
course,
you can't do that.
likely people do it. I mean, how are we gonna know if they're having them? And it's not really, if your kids have a slumber party in the backyard, that's not really what we're talking about here.
I realize
it's-
you said pitching a tent.
Yeah, we've had folks, again, who have vacant pieces of property, hey, I'm hunting, or I want to look at the stars, or what have you. Can I just camp on my vacant piece of property?
When we were in high school or something, we'd go out, pitch a tent on somebody's pasture for a night. I mean, it was a campground for a night.
Sure.
But I mean, it's their, if it's their if it's their property, they're paying taxes on it. They should be able to put a camper on there if they want to and stay, I mean,
Yeah.
without having to get
Well, if you own a camper, what do you do with it if you can't?
I guess the
You
thing,
gotta have someplace to park it.
I guess the thing and I've seen it in our county. And without mentioning names. So up toward in the northern end, there's a young couple that got an ag exemption to build a house on a piece of property. Well, to this date, they've never did that, but instead they live in an RV across the road in his parents' yard. Now, I have a little bit of problem with that. You know, maybe that's, you know, if it's fine with the parent, you know, if it's fine with the landowner, it's fine, but, you know. That's what, you know, I have a little bit, you know, if we granted them to do something to give them an ag exemption to build a house. And it's been almost a year now and they haven't done the only thing but a well. I think that maybe needs to take a little bit more of a action in if somebody's aunt and uncle or relative wants to put the camper in their yard, you know, for 3 or 4 months or 3 months, this thing, you know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
maybe I'm looking at it wrong or.
No, it's more than just, of course, you know, tent camping. It's just like what you said, you know, somebody's coming to town, they're bringing their RV and they want to decide, bless you, want to park at the side of the house and stay in it while they're there for the week. You know, it's accounting for those sorts of things too, because we agree people should be able to do that sort of stuff. That's not a ridiculous request by any means. So we just need to talk about if we want to limit it or not. I mean, we could just write code that says people can do this. We just need to separate it from right now. If anybody does it, it's considered a campground. And we don't, that's not the intent. So just need to
Well,
decide if we want
And
to.
we have some people that up in the northern end of the county that have some land that's all trees. They're from Texas. I mean, I don't know who it is across from that, right at the Fancy Creek Bridge
Okay,
on the west side of the road.
yeah.
That they're, I think they're building a house back in there or
There is
something
a house
maybe.
there.
But yet, you know, they probably stayed in a camper there, or they may have friends that come from Texas to hunt and stay there and so,
Yeah.
you know.
The negative about the whole thing, and this is why we did it this way. The people abuse that. They will literally go out and park their RV, and then it is gonna depend on zoning enforcement. They have to go around and make sure what's going on, or if there's any kind of sort of, you know. And it becomes an issue when there's no on-site septic systems. And they are going to take liberty with their drainage, since they're going to the state park and emptying out. I mean, we've had a lot of issues with that, and so that's why we have it that way.
Okay,
I mean, it's not because we're trying to keep people from enjoying their property, it's to keep people from literally setting up homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you go from the sewage point of view part of it, but that, you know, unless somebody complains about some dumping or something like that, that everything's okay until you get a complaint about doing something wrong.
I guess it would all depend on, again, what we have in our code, what's, you know, what's going on versus what's in the code. And yes, Bob is right. Things like living in an RV, especially if we do, excuse me, especially if we do time limits, very, very hard to enforce because you can't really prove you didn't live there then, or you did live there. Some of them are pretty obvious when people, you know, set up a whole thing, they have their satellite dish and everything, but a lot of times it is honestly very hard to tell if somebody's.
A lot of times too, we've had this problem before with RVs, come in to visit, they empty out into someone's septic tank. And that's a no-go in sanitary code, can't do that.
Well, can't we just
These things up.
put the restriction on saying, instead of saying you can't put an RV on your own property, put the restriction as you can't empty your septic.
Well, it comes down to living, on your property without a building permit.
Can they put in is it allowed to put in a holding tank for it? Instead of a septic
Again,
tank?
we're talking to residents, that's full-time,
Well, I'm just asking.
that's a, right, that's a permanent infrastructure for a temporary situation.
It is.
And I would have to agree that. That is wrong because there's no building permits. You know, they're not doing what everybody else does if they want to build a house.
Yeah, and it's not camping like on your property, let's say you got a house. And you want to go camp, or if you're a mother-in-law, when your parents decide to come in with their $400,000 RV and park it there. Now, you can park an RV there, you can store an RV on your property at this time, but you can't live in it. Hopefully, they didn't get that
Well-
situation.
If you want to park, somebody's coming. And they park for a couple of months and live in it. For on a temporary basis. I have no problem with that. I mean, if somebody's driving in 3-4 states away and your house isn't big enough to accommodate everybody, I don't know why they couldn't stay for. A week or two.
That's one, well, it goes back to the, dumping into the septic tank. And we can say, no, you can't all day, but. When we take that ability away from them to use it as a residence. At first, then they have to get past that, then to get to the next violation. So. That's kind of, we kind of thought, okay, there's really, it's gonna be very difficult to come up with. Reasonable conditions to meet and then enforce them. On this, without someone flat out abusing it. Right, becoming an environmental hazard. That's why we did that as it is. And then that's, again, we have a couple different situations. There's one of them, then there's those vacant lots out along the lake, and they just want to go out there and either park an RV or have their friends come out and then you got a party situation there. And again, we have no idea how long they could be there or were there or have, so.
But I can see it. Unless somebody comes in and tells you they're gonna drive their RV onto somebody's property, you're not gonna know it anyway.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
So,
And that goes along with the rest of it. We won't know either.
yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm honestly shocked people actually call and ask if they can camp. I'm surprised they just don't do it.
Well, there's probably a lot of people who do, but
And I don't have an issue with people camping or having people visit. I guess some of the restrictions I see would be worthwhile would be, sanitary waste discharge, you have to discharge of it properly, however you want to define that. Trash, you need to dispose of that properly. And then I've honestly seen, it was in a mobile home park, but the same thing could happen. Somebody built an entire roof structure around a mobile home that somebody could do the same thing with the trailer. And that's, I would draw the line at like a permanent structure, even skirting that's like wood around the structure. I might draw the line at, because then it's like permanent, like the camp hosts, they build kind of like skirting around it and decks on there.
Right.
Like, I think when you go to that effort, you're not camping anymore.
No,
You're living there for the summer.
well,
So those three things, I think the trash, the sanitary and some sort of, obviously a picnic table is not a permanent structure in my mind, but something that you're doing to the RV, I think makes it not camping anymore in my mind.
Right. I can understand it.
I have a sister-in-law that they went to California or Arizona this last winter and camped and stuff, and they were there for like, I don't know, a month or 2 months. But they put skirting around, they commented about that they put skirting around the bottom of their camper.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I thought, okay.
And there's vinyl skirting, but there's like,
Yeah,
get
and
the
that's
lattice work
what it
and
was.
build it like permanent
So it
skirting,
would, if we would put wood. Something,
something like, I don't know how you word it, but like lattice work looks like it's gonna be there in a while. Vinyl skirting, yeah, you can rip it off in 10 minutes.
Right.
So the question is too, we have to look into in our discussions regarding this is where can it go? I mean, are we talking about zoning? We're talking about platted areas. University Park,
I think you can park at my house if you want,
no, not parking, we're talking about.
camp it.
Right next door to you in a vacant lot.
I don't care.
Yeah. Okay, but.
As long as they're getting rid of their trash, their sanitary, and it doesn't start looking like it's gonna live there forever.
Okay,
But I think those three things, and I'd be okay with it.
See, now, to me, the thing that would bother me is somebody pulling into somebody's driveway. And being there for a month or something
Or
like
free.
that. You know, a week, okay, but a month, you know, it looks like you are going to have squatters' rights there or
Well,
something,
yeah.
but.
Or are we looking, I mean, if somebody bought land up here to come up and go deer hunting, or they wanna come up for a month or two and they own 40 acres. Is that the same as somebody pulling in next to a house and parking it in a basically a residential area? I mean,
To me, no, it's not,
not the same?
not the
No.
same.
No, I'm thinking if somebody's invested the kind of money to buy themselves a hunting place. They wanna come up, I mean, if they got the money to buy land, they probably got the money to buy an RV.
And that's exactly what happened with that piece of land north of Randolph. And we said, no, it's gotta be a campground, and he said, well, I wanna build a house eventually, that's why I went to a PPD. And he ended up selling it, he doesn't own it anymore. But that was, and then we have the same situation where hunters, different times of the year, will look from out of state, will come in, 3 or 4 RVs, park at a certain location. And hunt.
Well, they need to be treated like, I mean, if they own the property here, they are technically a resident, so they need to abide by the rules and the regulations of what we have in our county. Because there's too many out-of-state deer hunters that are coming in here and think that I'm gonna get a little off on the tangent here, but they think that they shouldn't have to pay recreational taxes on their property, and they can get away with agricultural when they solely only bought that piece of property for recreation. So, yes, I think that going back, if they're here, they need to abide by all the rules that everybody else does.
And that's what we were talking about, I mean,
Yes.
how do we wanna write these, I mean, not right now, we don't have to write them now, but I'm just saying that. Some of the things we have to take into consideration is, it's kind of like, we're gonna give you an inch, and they'll usually take a mile when it comes down to it.
Mhm.
How do we wanna address it, and how do we wanna enforce it? And is it in these neighborhoods like Tuttle Cove Road, German Hills? Or is it out, we're talking about in a wooded area that is
In Sweet Creek
in Sweet Creek? you get
or
that.
Fancy Creek Township, I mean, any of the townships, along the lake or wherever, I mean, people are buying property to, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it matters where it's at, it's happening at different levels.
Yeah.
Now, the way that it is, just like the one I made the comment, got the camper set up in mom and dad's yard, been there for almost a year, what, where's their sanitation going to,
all right.
So
So at least sounds like something we want to have further.
I think we
discussion on,
discussion
since we're
on, yes.
comfortable having those further
Yeah.
discussions. Nothing is going to be set in stone just because we take it forward doesn't mean anything has to happen, but it sounds like something we should put on the list to talk further about.
I think we probably will have, I mean, just after COVID and everything, people are tending more to do this, is to buy a few acres, someplace that they can be out in the middle of nowhere and put an RV and
Yeah.
be there for a while and stuff. So it's something we're gonna have to maybe contend with and figure out how we can work with it.
I was just gonna say, we've had complaints like, and I'm gonna say, I thought it was University Park area, maybe not. That somebody would come up on the weekend because they had an empty lot up there and they would camp. Well, they were just saying they were doing fire pits. And so some of the neighbors were getting upset because it was windy.
We are a Firewise community, the only one in Kansas, so we would probably get it.
And so that I was one thing I was gonna mention is also that they wanna sit outside at night
Fires,
and
yeah.
they wanna have a fire going and so, that really.
They're probably not plugged in to get all the notices about when you're not supposed to have. a fire.
Well, and so, yeah, people, their houses are very close, so then they start getting really upset about that. And then we've also had where family members have come to live, but they don't want to live in the house with them, and so they live out in their RV. And,
Yeah, that's.
or that, yeah. So. That's
It's tough to
kind of
draw
some
the line.
situations to let you know of complaints we've received about.
All right, so more to come on that one.
So
I'm hearing.
what kind of recommendations on that are you thinking? What,
Well, we don't really have anything yet, and of course, with the conversation we've just had, there's a lot of things raised that we'll need to, kind of look at and address and. Maybe bring some options to you folks and again, have a lot more in-depth discussion, make sure we're gonna bring everything if we can.
to me, it's a little different if there's an empty lot, they just pull their RV on it for a week or so in a residential area. That's not the same thing to me as going out in the country,
Right.
where they, 40 acres,
And I know we get a lot of people ask us when they're building a house, can we live in our camper while we're building? So.
Yeah, and I've been in jurisdictions that have allowed that sort of thing, you have a valid building permit, you're building
Yeah.
your home.
Yeah,
And
I mean, to me, that,
So that could be, right.
That's-
that would- that could
Yeah,
be a
that's-
separate
that's
thing
good.
too.
Cause I got friends in Pot County whose house burnt and they're living in a camper right next, right on their farmstead, because they gotta be there, so. But that's different counties, so, but anyhow, so.
Okay.
Yep, so I think we need to, we'll visit that some more.
Okay. Sounds good, so just moving along. So automobile repair versus automobile service. So basically, of course, you all are familiar with the situation on Pillsbury. Thank you. And so this is partially related to that, but not the big expansive, all the different cars. There's a few property owners along there that are doing things that we're not proposing to change, we're not proposing to all of a sudden allow. Those are still code enforcement issues that we are working on. So what we have here is we allow automobile service in our C2 zone, which those properties that you see out there are the C2, the highway commercial. Some of them are also doing automobile repair. And right now, that's not an allowable use in that zone. So we've just been having discussions about, should it be, essentially? Is it close enough to something like an automobile service, even though it's gonna be a little bit more intensive of a use? Is it something we want to consider allowing in that zone? Again, automobile repair is a little bit more intensive. That's actually, really working on the car, maybe taking pieces out, that kind of sort of stuff. Automobile service is more, you pull in, you get your oil changed and a little less intensive than repair. C2 does require all this kind of stuff to take place inside a structure. So it's not like we would be having, repair and things happening, right there, visible. So again, just a conversation we've been having amongst staff and our legal, just given that honestly, there are folks out there doing automobile repair. And originally it was, of course, code violations because it's not allowable there. And that just sparked the conversation of, well, should it be? So with, obviously some sort of restrictions or limitations, but is it something we want to consider adding in some version, adding to the allowable uses for C2?
so the individual out there that has so many cars around,
Yes.
what are those cars used for? What,
Well, the biggest thing we know that he's doing out there that is not okay under zoning is salvaging. That's not something we allow. That's pretty much what he's doing there. I mean, you're gonna see vehicles in various states of dismantled and all kinds of sort of stuff.
aren't there rules that, for like a salvage yard, that they have to be behind
Correct.
screening?
Yes, so we have a couple things happening there. Of course, it's not screened, but he's also, again, salvaging is not allowed in that zone, so he's got a use violation and then really honestly a screening violation as well, so. So that's separate from what we're talking about here. We're not proposing to add salvaging to the C2,
Yeah,
that's
good.
way too intensive, so. So that one, it doesn't really impact those pieces of property, because again, those are still violations.
And you said this is being done inside a building?
it's supposed to be, and as far as we know, I know Darren was working on a couple pieces of property again on Pillsbury. I don't know what if. Do they take place inside, and of course they have, storage, if you will, parked cars and things like that. But most everybody keeps them fairly neat, so.
As long as
really.
it's inside, I don't have much concern about maintenance as opposed to repair. As long as you don't have a bunch of junk cars sitting out and around.
Yeah, and those are, certain types of limitations we can have, the amount of cars you might have outside, timelines. Something with maybe the size of the building or garage bays that, would determine maybe how many you have out there. So if you're just like a little mom and pop, that's one versus,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but versus something that has, 5 or 7 bays, might wanna have, ratio there, but.
If they make an appointment, somebody bring a car and get fixed, and when that's done, they get somebody else to bring another one, so you don't have a bunch of them.
Right, exactly.
And could you, if they've got cars for rent, say. To me, that's like a car dealership. You want people to see. So I understand you can't have screening for that.
Right.
But those cars don't seem to move.
Right.
So can you have some kind of rule that there's screening for?
Yeah, we can add, screening regulations. We can add time limits to things, but it's gonna be the same as with the RV. We're gonna have to be driving by there. Is that same car that was there yesterday? Sort of thing. So screening would probably be a better way to do it.
Right.
It's a little bit easier to enforce.
The tough part there is discerning between types of dealers. You'll have John Murdoch, you'll have, Dick Edwards. Then you'll have these guys, and they're under the exact same verbiage. What you see out there in front is display. It's their display, you're not gonna screen that, you're not gonna force them to
Right.
screen it.
But it's so thick you can't see anything.
As far as storage of anything, it's behind screening. In their storage yard, all of these other places have storage yards. Not quite to that extent. Are they salvaging? I don't think so, because they usually order parts. Bring them in and they have a parts department, and they do, these folks aren't doing that. So,
Well, if you're fixing a car or servicing a car, you're not selling a car, you shouldn't have to display it. If
no,
you're
this is sales and service.
out here,
Yeah.
they were talking about, I thought it was just talking about service and repair.
So right now, we do allow sales and service in the C2. What we're talking about is
Okay.
adding the category of repairing automobiles as well.
Well, see, that's changed my whole mindset now. Displaying, you have to have, of course, in sales.
Sure.
I didn't realize we were talking about sales.
Could you limit the number of vehicles that you have in that area? The other places, they have parking lots large enough for the number of vehicles they have. They do not have a parking lot large enough. Could you put a number of, for so many square feet, you can only display X number of cars?
Sure, we
Type
can
thing.
definitely do that. It's another thing that'll be a little bit challenging to enforce, but it's something we can look at. We can talk about if that's how we want to go about it.
What are they doing with their vehicles now if they got too many for their lot?
I have no idea. It looks like they just collect them.
Where do they put them? I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I have
there's
no idea who the
several,
people
but-
are. It's on the right-hand side as you're going out of town, across the bridge, go across the bridge and it's around a curve. Or on a curve.
Yeah, there's a couple, what we're mostly talking about is a couple on the left side if you're going out of, going south out of town. There's
On
one
the
there,
left.
that are a little bit neater.
Oh, yeah, okay,
They're not the,
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't tend to notice those because we're, looking.
You're
over
looking
here,
at the
so-
one on the right-hand side.
Right.
Because you can't, it just looks like there's somebody has a auto repair place there. And I hate to say this, but, because this guy's my cousin.
Yeah.
But in Potawatomi County, on the old highway, there's a guy that works on trucks. it's a mess out there. He's got stuff that's been there for, I don't know how many years. That I don't know whether it's just salvage stuff or what, but it's a disaster. And that's kind of what this
With
is.
that, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so this conversation wouldn't really fix the disasters up there, so those are still
Well,
violations.
And they just need to
It sounds like if you're
clean it
old
up.
trucks, you got a salvage yard, and that's something totally different too, a salvage yard.
But the guy I was talking about is in Pot County, so we can't do anything about it. So,
So it sounds like this is another one that you folks are okay with moving the discussion forward.
Yeah.
Very much so.
All right, so moving along, I think the next few should be a little easier. So, adding non-transferable language to all of our licenses, it's just something we don't have in there right now. We say that, of course, if somebody new comes along, they need their own license. They're not just gonna hand their license over to a new buyer or whatever like that. We just want to clarify that in our.
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
pretty straightforward.
Sounds good.
Non-transfer.
Non-transfer.
It's transferable.
Non-transfer
Did you want to say? anything about that?
licenses.
So they get it in their name.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we figured that one was pretty
Yeah.
straightforward, just
Makes
kind of
sense.
cleaning up. Next one, tiny homes. And I know Rita, you had sent a message about if other jurisdictions in Kansas allow these. I'd have to do some research.
I was just curious who else was doing it and what they were allowing, you know?
Yeah.
Good to have a frame of reference on what other people are doing.
At one time, River Chase on the way out there was like a tiny house. And, okay, because it was right on Tuttle Creek Boulevard.
That's right.
And I mean, it was really obvious, but it's now disappeared. But that was in a mobile home park, of course.
We make them with the mobile home parks if we
Right.
catch them.
That's how we do it now.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, so again, just that conversation, if we want to add that to the zone, without having building codes, of course, we don't have minimum sizes required for our structures, we don't have minimum sizes required for bedrooms, things like that. So they could be teeny tiny and, yeah, they're not violent code, exactly. But then, so there's that part, but then, of course, the kicker is, you know, they're not permanent, you know, they are more of an RV sort of situation. So they're not really gonna be anchored to the ground, they're not, you know, permanent foundation sort of thing, so.
these are usually on wheels.
So
Right.
let me ask you this then, what about these people that have 5 acres that they've bought out here in the middle of? And they gonna have a tiny house and put out there. That might be something we want to look at, that,
That
The
goes
way
back-
we have it now is I think when they do that, it has to be on a permanent foundation. You
really,
don't have a size yet, but you have to be on a permanent foundation, so just like anything else, it can withstand a 70-mile-an-hour wind.
okay,
Okay,
Okay, and it has sanitary code, right?
Yeah.
Again,
Sure.
right?
Oh, yeah.
If they want to keep it on the wheels, then it's an RV.
okay,
It goes either in a mobile home park where they can keep the wheels on them, that kind of thing, or an RV park. That's how.
And that's how it is
these are.
currently.
okay.
So. Yeah,
And I was thinking more the ones like there's a veterans community in Kansas City and I believe they're permanent tiny homes. So I was thinking of those, the wheel ones, I was thinking, yeah, those would need to go to the RV park. Or the trailer. But
Are you talking like a park or a tiny house community?
it is, it's for veterans in Kansas City, Missouri. So those are and I believe they're on permanent foundations. So that's the kind I was thinking of.
That works too if they have a central system.
Yeah.
That's,
And
I know we've had people inquire on it, and I think when they get to the, how are you gonna deal with waste, you know, the sanitary code is what really trips them up, but I know we've also, if you watched any of those shows on tiny homes, they come up with, tell you all kinds of ideas about what how to, you know, have your wastewater treated. Well, then that it's not allowed in Riley County, and people they don't realize that, you know, they can't do that.
Right.
Yeah, certainly if they have a permanent foundation, we would just treat them like a regular house.
Yeah, then they're not, just because they're tiny, they're a house.
Right, exactly. Is that something you folks want to explore more?
Yeah, I think so. For Rita.
Well, if the tiny home is house, if it has a foundation, I don't know
Right.
what you have to do.
Next one, modified principal building versus principal use language. So we do have a conflict between definition of regulation that we need to clean up, if nothing else. But the concern we have, or the restriction here, is that there's only allowed to be one principal, let's see, I want to make sure I'm getting this right. One principal building, right, per structure, not principal use. And we all know that some principal uses can be in multiple buildings. They're not always
sure.
just contained in one. So that's a little bit of a difficulty, when somebody comes up with a use, but no, they have to have it just in this one structure. So that's something we talked a lot about among staff, both to clarify, and then if we want to change that, instead of saying principal building, principal use, and have the criteria applied to that rather than the structure itself.
Sounds reasonable.
That sounds,
Make
yeah,
sure I'm explaining things right.
that makes sense. If you've got
Yeah,
two buildings,
sounds
you're doing something.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a farm where you got lots of buildings out there.
That's what I was thinking,
But
like
one
some
thing
sort of
we realized
manufacturing. or
that
farm.
is mini storage. It's one use, but
Right,
there's usually more than one building.
Right.
so-
right.
So, okay. we can move forward with that. Okay, so next one, modified plan unit development, the PUD amendment language. Of course, as you folks know, we've gotten a lot of those the last year or two, so that's really put us through using our new regulations for that. And just made us realize that we need a lot of clarification. We need to probably expand on certain areas, really clarify when an amendment applies, what substantial conformance is, all that sort of stuff really needs to be better defined, better clarity in there. So that's basically what we're thinking with that. Again, no proposed language right at this moment, but we just really want to clarify that section and make it a little bit easier both for us and.
Can you go to the podium and state your name, please? Now,
The previous regulations, the way we were handling it, we didn't have any true PUD amendment process. There's a start over. There's criteria in there that it's really meant for when a preliminary development plan goes through. And then later someone comes in with a final. So that there's conformance between the final and the preliminary. They have to be close enough to the same thing. And there's 4 criteria that it gives you as far as substantial compliance or performance with that preliminary. That's what's going on there. But that's during the process between the preliminary and the final. Let's say that someone comes in and does a preliminary and a final all at once, and it's done. It's exactly the same, no changes. But someone comes back and says, okay, I want to change the way we were handling that before. We were going back to that substantial conformance criteria. And to see if they made any changes to a new final development plan, was it enough like the preliminary development plan to be good? But it turns out that's only applies to during the process. Once it's final, it's done. And then, so what we have now is one little statement that says, okay, you can change the square footage of your buildings up to 1%. That's it. It doesn't go back to the rest of the, flexibilities in there at all. That's it. Anything else, you have to start over with the preliminary and the final, and get that going. So again, some amendment process when you have to do the whole thing over again.
So that's gonna save people a lot of money to be able, if we had a process.
What we do, that's it.
Well, no, other than having to start all over.
Yeah, we were talking about how come it doesn't say that to use those, we were doing that and maybe we shouldn't have been. But we could always maybe use that same criteria or come up with some more stuff or whatever, but massage it so it's a lot easier to come in with a new development plan that is in some sort of confluence with the preliminary. Without
Yeah.
having to do everything over again.
I agree.
And that's like, I don't know, it's more work for everyone if we do it the way we do it now.
Well, and
And it's confusing.
I haven't been through like a whole like subdivision here, but like. We would do a preliminary plat for a 100-acre subdivision. But then you do the final plats and go, oh, it still looks like the preliminary plat. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's kind of the same thing. You've got the PUD preliminary. And then here's what I want to do today, but 5 years from now, oh, I want to do this, but it kind of still looks like the first thing.
Yeah.
I think I'd be
Have
okay with that.
criteria set so that, they could probably do this without returning to the board,
Yeah,
administratively and be okay. If it goes beyond that, reasonable criteria. Needs to go back to the board for your
Sure.
review.
I think so.
Okay. Move forward with that.
So. Next one is hopefully a pretty straightforward one, just adding language into the code that honestly we thought was already there.
Yeah,
Which is okay, to change very basic clerical issues in there that don't have any impact on the. So in other words, I apologize, on the criteria, we're not changing intent, we're not changing, anything like that. The period's in the wrong place or words spelled or oops, that is,
mhm.
missing, something like that. Really, really simple things that we really shouldn't have to waste you guys' time with the whole amendment.
Thank you.
I think so.
Yes.
Sounds great.
So we just want to
That's-
add,
yep.
just to be very, very clear in there, that we can do that.
Yes,
Makes sense.
you have our blessing.
Thought we would, but I'll double check. And the last one that we have in our memo here is the riparian buffer zones. We have a table, table 6.2 that shows, some of the different uses you can and can't do within the first 25 feet and the second 25 feet. It's one of those things that we just need some clarification, probably need to expand a little bit. There's a little bit of conflict where it's, in the table, it's got things that are prohibited, but then underneath there's some more things that are prohibited. So it's just a little bit confusing. Okay, what's prohibited versus what's not, if you will, but not necessarily permitted. So we're just hoping to clarify, basically.
Real quick, and I think what it is they want to clarify between the two zones. You can do it in this zone, but you can't do it in this zone. And that's why you get that no, yes, or prohibited, or even permitted and not permitted. But then underneath it, it pretty much lists the stuff you can't do at all on either one of the zones.
Right.
There's some stuff that's major stuff that was left out and like our zoning regulations. If it's not permitted in the zone, if it's not listed, it's not permitted. And I think that's the assumption here, but it's not, it doesn't say it. And it's to the planners to, okay, that's how we're gonna treat it, that's how we're gonna interpret it. But the problem is that we have the general public looking at these things daily. They're out there right now, people going, and they're going, where does it say that I can't put a house in one of these?
Right.
Well, it's not listed.
Yeah.
Well, neither is the Empire State Law, I mean.
Not,
So I think that maybe we need to put some clarifying language in there, that is, at least states our intent. It's clear that they know it when they read it. And so
Makes sense.
we're trying to protect the riparian areas when we make sure it gets
Right.
there. Absolutely.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily to change it to a free for all. We just want to make sure that we're very, very clear about what can and can't be done in both sections.
Yep.
Both the 25 and the 50. So,
That's a no-brainer.
okay, so we've reached the end of our list. Rita, did you want to bring up the other item?
oh, I think I was just wondering, I know, Bob had told me sometime in the last version, you had taken out the option of like building a barn on a property line to automatically combine the lots, and I was just curious, like why it was removed and if there was a discussion on, like, could you add that back? I think sometimes it would be nice to do something nice for people so they don't have to necessarily get replats and spend all that money, then it's like $3,000 just because they wanted to build a barn or something. Like we were able to take advantage of that when we did ours, and
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice to let other people take advantage of that as well.
Absolutely, and that was creating an issue when you have the character of the neighborhood. And it's supposed to, the house kind of thing, then the vacant lots, what happened, and people were buying these garden sheds, small ones. And then just pop that down to bring that out, then it causes confusion as far as that sanitary code. Is, well, we have a development lot, where can the system go? Well, all three of these lots are now. And the appraisers, they have a problem with that, there's other departments that have, like the clerk's office, they have issues with that as well, as far as making that a development lot. So without replanning. Right now, it was, you can do any structure on it and you're good to go. Almost, a large doghouse. Here you go.
Really?
And then
Okay.
together. No, so it was decided when we were putting the LDR together, your principal structure can straddle the line if there's not a utility easement along that line. And then it brings those together. A house is one thing. But a garden shed can be moved. And then you're back to a single lot. Okay, so the reason why is one of the reasons why we had issues with it is that once these lots are brought together, the side yard line setback is eliminated. If they do that all the way through, then they build up close to it and then they get rid of that garden shed, and then the lots are now autonomous. Now they are back to being two separate lots with no side yard setback for that house, albeit very small nowadays, but still that creates problems.
Okay.
And so now an actual barn for livestock and that kind of thing, is agriculturally related.
Could you say something like it's allowed if it's a permitted structure?
No, because
No.
all of them are permanent.
No, permitted, like a garden
All of them
shed
are
or,
permitted.
you have to permit a garden shed?
Yes,
If it's big enough. Yeah.
Like under 10 by 10, we used to get not permitted.
49
I think,
square
yeah,
feet,
it's like-
less than that, no.
Okay. I don't know, I just. It was just a
Storage
question.
containers the same way.
Again, though, if you're a barn, an actual barn, then, that's, if it's agricultural use, then you can put it anywhere you want, really,
Yeah,
except probably in the middle of the road.
probably.
Seriously, they're exempt. So, I'm not sure if there's any limitation on that. But everything else, there's a reason for it, and we've gone down that road and there's a reason why we have it the way we have it now.
That's why I was just curious, because I've had people ask me about that, and I was like, I don't know, we put the barn in the right spot and.
Barn's
And
one thing.
it was fine. It wasn't on an architectural, agricultural barn, but I called it a barn because it looks like a barn.
Oh.
I don't know what you called it on the permit, but. Looks like a barn. So you look inside and there's no
Maybe we need
animals.
to investigate.
It's not ag exempt, it's, I paid the permit, I hope my husband paid the permit.
Any more on
I don't have
that,
anything else.
or any other things that we haven't talked about, or anything more of what we have talked about? Do you folks wanna bring up?
I don't have it.
Anything?
Okay.
Okay. So with these code changes, I don't wanna do them all at once, because that would be a really, really long meeting. So probably just kind of bring one or two at a time, as I know you might have a pretty packed agenda. But, as the agenda kind of wants. So bring one or two that we can have further discussion on. Probably maybe bring some suggestions or, thoughts for how we could restrict something or whatever. So just so we have something to talk about, so.
Sounds good.
Right, perfect. And so next month, we are going to have our annual comp plan review with you folks. As you all know, we are slowly working on our big update to the plan that we're looking at having done by the end of next year. But we'll talk more about that again next time, what our annual review should look like for now versus what we're looking to do. So. That's something.
I need the annual report done by then.
Probably.
You can handle it.
I've started it, but let me tell you, I've never been this late in the year doing.
Anything else?
I'm good. If
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Don't forget the Mylar.
Yeah, do I got it?
I move we adjourn.
Yes.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the Raleigh County Planning Board meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Thank you, guys.
Do you have a fire tonight?
No, it's medical.
medical. All right, I gotta go. My daughter moved into her apartment. I got the overflow stuff that's not going in the apartment.